The alien ship appeared without warning in Earth's orbit on a Tuesday morning. Captain Veltar of the Zephyrian species stood on the bridge of the Celestial Dawn, his 4 arms working the control panels with practiced ease. His green skin shimmered under the ship's soft lights as he studied the blue planet below. "Another primitive world with radio signals," said his science officer, a tall creature with silver scales. "They seem to be broadcasting entertainment, programs and news reports. Very basic technology." Veltar nodded his elongated head. "Prepare the standard first contact package. These humans appear to be at the correct development level for peaceful introduction to the galaxy." 3 days later, Commander Jake Martinez floated in the observation deck of the International Space Station New Frontier. He had been chosen to lead Earth's first contact team because of his calm nature and diplomatic training. The massive alien vessel hung in space like a silver moon, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "They're requesting permission to dock," reported Communications Officer Lisa Adams from her station. Her hands shook slightly as she worked the controls. "Their translator seems to be working perfectly. They speak English better than some humans." Jake took a deep breath. "Grant them permission. This is what we trained for." The alien delegation consisted of 5 beings from different species. Captain Veltar led the group, followed by Dr. Kithara, a scientist with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. Behind them came 3 others that Jake couldn't identify, each more strange than the last. "Greetings, humans of Earth," Veltar said, in perfect English, though his voice had a musical quality that made Jake think of wind chimes. "We are representatives of the Galactic Federation. We come in peace to welcome you to the greater community of intelligent life." Jake smiled and extended his hand. "Welcome to our space station. I'm Commander Jake Martinez. We're honored to meet you." Veltar looked at the extended hand with confusion before carefully touching it with one of his 4 hands. "This is a greeting ritual?" "Yes, we call it a handshake. It shows friendship and trust." The aliens exchanged glances that Jake couldn't read. Dr. Kethesura pulled out a small device and scanned Jake's hand. "Fascinating. Your skin contains millions of microscopic organisms. Are these parasites?" Lisa Adams stepped forward. "No, those are beneficial bacteria. They help protect us from harmful germs and aid in various bodily functions." The aliens backed away slightly. One of them, a creature that looked like a walking plant, made a sound that the translator couldn't process. Dr. Kethara spoke rapidly in their own language before turning back to the humans. "You live in symbiosis with millions of other life forms. Inside your bodies?" "Well, yes," Jake said, not understanding their concern. "Doesn't everyone?" The plant-like alien fell backward and had to be caught by its companions. Dr. Kethara quickly administered something from a medical device. "Please forgive botanist Zelka. Your world's biology is quite different from what we expected." The cultural exchange continued in the station's main meeting room. Captain Ryan Brooks, Earth's military liaison, had prepared a presentation about human civilization. He started with basic information about Earth's countries and cultures. "Earth has 7 continents and over 200 nations," Ryan explained, showing a holographic map. "We have many different climates and environments where humans live." "You live on all parts of your planet?" asked Dr. Kethara, taking rapid notes. "Even the frozen areas and desert regions?" "Of course. Humans live everywhere from the Arctic ice to tropical rainforests to mountain peaks over 8,000 meters high." The aliens spoke among themselves in hushed tones. Jake noticed they seemed upset about something. Veltar finally asked, "These environments you mention, do they not kill your people?" Ryan laughed. "Well, they can be dangerous if you're not prepared, but humans are pretty adaptable. We use clothing, shelter, and technology to survive almost anywhere. But why do you choose to live in such places?" "Some people are born there. Others move there for work or because they like the challenge. Some folks actually enjoy extreme environments. The word enjoy seemed to break something in the alien translator. It made a grinding noise and sparked slightly. Dr. Kethera hit it several times before it started working again. Perhaps we should exchange gifts, Veltar suggested, clearly wanting to change the subject. We have brought you a companion creature from our homeworld. It is very gentle and brings good fortune. He gestured to one of his companions who brought forward a small cage. Inside was something that looked like a cross between a kitten and a butterfly. It had soft fur, tiny wings, and made sweet chirping sounds. Lisa Adams immediately pulled out a scanner and began examining the creature from a distance. Her face grew serious as she read the results. "I'm sorry, but we can't accept this gift. This creature carries several microorganisms that don't exist on Earth. If they escaped into our environment, they could cause massive ecological damage." The alien stared at her in shock. "But it's completely harmless," Dr. Kethara protested. "These organisms are beneficial. They help the creature digest food and maintain health. They might be beneficial to your creature, but they could be deadly to Earth life. We'd need to study them for months or years before we could safely introduce them." Jake watched the alien's reaction with growing concern. They seemed genuinely confused and a little frightened by human caution. "It's nothing personal," he tried to explain. "We've learned to be very careful about introducing new species to our world. We've had problems in the past." "What kind of problems?" Veltar asked. "Well, sometimes a harmless plant or animal from one place becomes a dangerous pest in another place. We once had rabbits destroy entire ecosystems in Australia. A few decades ago, some fish escaped from farms and damaged wild fish populations. The plant-like alien Zelka made a recovery and spoke through the translator. Your species deliberately studies how to damage ecosystems." No, Ryan said quickly. "We study these accidents so we can prevent them from happening again." But the damage was done. Jake could see the fear in the aliens' eyes. They began packing their equipment and gifts with nervous speed. "Perhaps we should return to our ship," Veltar said politely. "This has been most educational. We will need to file a report with the Federation about your unique approach to biology and survival." As the aliens prepared to leave, Jake heard Dr. Kethera speaking to her colleagues in their own language. The translator picked up fragments, dangerous adaptation patterns, and unprecedented survival responses, and require immediate classification review. The alien delegation departed within an hour, leaving the human team confused and disappointed. Jake watched their ship disappear into space, wondering what had gone wrong. They had tried to be friendly and careful, but somehow that had made things worse. Lisa Adams was still studying the scans of the alien creature when Jake found her later. "Did we make a mistake?" he asked. "No," she said firmly. "That creature was carrying 3 different types of bacteria that could have wiped out half the plants in North America. We were right to be cautious." "Then why did they seem so scared?" "Of us?" Lisa looked out at the stars where the alien ship had vanished. "I think we scared them because we weren't scared enough. They thought we were being reckless, but we were actually being more careful than they expected." Jake nodded slowly. "So what happens now?" "Now we wait and see if they come back. And if they do, we hope they understand that being careful isn't the same as being hostile." Neither of them knew that Captain Veltar was already updating Earth's file in the Federation database. Where it had previously been marked as Class 3 Developing World Standard Contact Protocols, it now read Class 6 Unusual World. Inhabitants show contradictory survival behaviors, requires further study. It was the first upgrade in what would become a very long series of corrections. 3 months after the first contact disaster, Dr. Kethera stood in the observation deck of her research station, hidden on the dark side of Earth's moon. Her pale blue hands worked quickly across the control panels, as she adjusted the long range scanners for another day of studying the strange humans below. Still nothing makes sense about these creatures, she muttered to her assistant, Tekalon, a young researcher with silver skin and 3 eyes. Look at this footage from yesterday. The main screen showed a group of humans in white clothing moving across a frozen landscape. They carried heavy packs and pulled sleds loaded with supplies. The temperature readings showed -40 degrees. They are wearing inadequate protection for such conditions, Tekalon observed, yet their body heat signatures remain stable. How is this possible? Dr. Keth-Era zoomed in on one particular human. This male specimen appears to be their leader. According to our translation of their communications, his name is Chris Walker. He is conducting what they call survival training. Down on Earth, Marine Sergeant Chris Walker stopped his unit for a rest break in the Alaskan wilderness. The wind howled around them, but the Marines seemed comfortable despite the deadly cold. Dr. Amy Foster, a scientist studying human adaptation, pulled out her notebook and made observations. The human body is remarkable, she said to Chris, her breath forming clouds in the air. We can survive in temperatures that would kill most mammals. Chris nodded and took a drink from his water bottle. The liquid was partially frozen, but he drank it anyway. Humans have been living in places like this for thousands of years. The Inuit people made this land their home long before we had modern equipment. Back on the research station, Dr. Kethera nearly fell out of her chair. Did you hear that, Tekalon? They consume frozen liquids voluntarily, and they have been living in lethal environments for thousands of rotations around their star. Tekalon. 3 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of extreme confusion among his species. Doctor, perhaps these humans are not as intelligent as we first believed. Maybe they do not understand that these conditions are dangerous. No, that cannot be correct. Watch this next recording. The screen changed to show the interior of a human dwelling. A family sat around a table eating a meal. The adults were laughing while the children made faces and reached for glasses of liquid. Notice the younger humans, Dr. Kethera pointed at the screen. They are consuming a substance that our analysis shows contains ethyl alcohol. This is a poison that damages the nervous system. Perhaps the adults are trying to harm the young ones. No, look at their behavior. They appear happy and relaxed. Our behavioral analysis indicates this is a social bonding activity. The aliens watched in horror as the human father poured more of the poisonous liquid into his glass and drank it with obvious pleasure. The mother laughed at something he said and took a sip from her own glass. Meanwhile, on Earth, Lieutenant Colonel Ben Hayes was reviewing intelligence reports in his office at Peterson Space Force Base. His aide, Katie Morgan, knocked on his door and entered with a concerned expression. Sir, we've detected unusual radio signals coming from the moon. The pattern suggests they might be from our alien visitors. Ben looked up from his papers. Are they trying to communicate with us again? No, sir. It appears to be observational equipment. They seem to be watching us. Watching us do what? Katie pulled out her tablet and showed him the data. Based on the signal directions, they've been focused on military training exercises, civilian activities in extreme climates, and recreational activities. Recreational activities? Yes, sir. Last week they spent 6 hours monitoring a ski resort in Colorado. The week before that, they tracked a surfing competition in Hawaii. Ben frowned. Why would they be interested in people having fun? Back on the research station, Dr. Kethera was asking herself the same question. She pulled up footage of humans on a mountain covered in snow. They had attached long flat objects to their feet and were sliding down the mountain at dangerous speeds. This activity serves no survival purpose, she told Tekalon. Yet they appear to be enjoying themselves. Look at their facial expressions and body language. The humans on screen were indeed laughing and calling out to each other as they raced down the slopes. Some of them were moving so fast that they launched into the air over small hills. "Doctor," Teclon said quietly, "I think they are voluntarily engaging in life-threatening behavior for entertainment." Dr. Kethera felt a chill. That had nothing to do with the station's temperature controls. That cannot be correct. No intelligent species would risk death for pleasure. She switched to another recording, this one showing humans in a large body of water. They were moving their arms and legs to stay afloat while waves crashed over their heads. "Water immersion training?" Teclon suggested hopefully. "No, look at the context. There are small humans present, and the adults are not wearing protective equipment. This appears to be another recreational activity." The footage showed children splashing and playing in the water while adults watched and sometimes joined them. Everyone seemed to be having fun, even when larger waves knocked them down. Dr. Kethera began pulling up more files. "I have been cataloging human activities for 3 months. They deliberately expose themselves to extreme temperatures, poisonous substances, dangerous heights, aggressive animals, high-speed locomotion, and water immersion. And in most cases, they appear to enjoy these experiences." She showed Teclon a video of humans sitting in a small boat on rough water, trying to catch fish. The boat was being thrown around by waves that would terrify most species. "They are using primitive transportation in hazardous conditions to hunt aquatic creatures," Dr. Kethera explained. "But notice their behavior. They are relaxed and conversational. Maybe their world has made them incapable of recognizing danger." Dr. Kethera switched to a different file. "That theory does not explain this." The new footage showed human children in a fenced area, running around and colliding with each other while chasing a round object. Adults stood nearby, cheering and encouraging this behavior. "The young ones are engaging in ritual combat while the adults approve," she said. "This suggests they are deliberately training their offspring for violent encounters. Or," Teclon said slowly, "they are so accustomed to danger that they no longer fear it." Dr. Kethera stared at the screen where human children continued their energetic game. "Teclon, I am beginning to suspect that our initial classification of this world was completely incorrect." She pulled up the official Federation database. Entry for Earth. It still read Class 6 Unusual World, requires further study. "What classification do you think would be appropriate, Doctor?" Dr. Kethera watched as one of the human children fell down, got back up, and immediately resumed playing. The child was bleeding from a small wound, but seemed completely unconcerned. "I am not certain yet, but I believe we need to consider the possibility that these humans are not strange because they do not understand danger. They may be strange because they have adapted to levels of danger that would destroy other species." She began typing a new report to Federation headquarters. "I am requesting permission to conduct extended observations. These humans and their world require much more study before we can safely establish relations." As she worked, Dr. Kethera did not notice that her own stress indicators were climbing. The Federation's most experienced xenobiologist was beginning to feel afraid of a species that treated mortal danger as casual entertainment. On Earth below, Chris Walker and his Marines continued their training in the frozen wilderness, completely unaware that their normal human activities were causing panic among the galaxy's most advanced scientists. The gap between human and alien understanding was about to become much, much wider. Dr. Kethera had not slept in 3 days. Her pale blue skin had turned almost white from stress as she stared at the data streaming across her monitors. What she had discovered about Earth and its human inhabitants was so terrifying that she had checked her findings 17 times. "Teclon," she called to her assistant, her voice shaking. "Come look at this climate data we pulled from their information networks." Teclon approached carefully. His superior had been acting strange since she began studying Earth's geological history. "What have you found, Doctor?" This planet has experienced 5 major extinction events. 5 times, almost all life on this world has been completely destroyed. She pointed at the screen showing a timeline of Earth's history. Look at these temperature changes. Ice ages that lasted thousands of years. Volcanic eruptions that blocked out their sun. Asteroid impacts that shattered continents. But Doctor, many worlds have dangerous histories. Dr. Kethera turned to face him, her large dark eyes wide with fear. Tekalon, these events did not happen in the distant past. The most recent major extinction was only 65 million rotations ago. For a planet that is 4.5 billion rotations old, that is practically yesterday. Down on Earth, Colonel Danny Wright was leading his international military unit through survival training in the Sahara Desert. The temperature was 120 degrees, hot enough to kill most alien species within minutes. Dr. Rachel Stone, a climate scientist, walked alongside the soldiers taking notes. "The human body is incredible," she said to Danny, wiping sweat from her forehead. "We can regulate our temperature through perspiration and adjust our blood flow to cope with extreme heat." Danny nodded and took a drink from his water bottle. "My grandfather fought in deserts like this during World War II. Humans have been adapting to harsh environments for our entire history." Back on the research station, Dr. Kethera was analyzing human DNA samples they had collected during the first contact. What she found made her hands tremble as she typed her report. "Every human carries genetic markers from multiple extinction events," she told Tekalon. "Their ancestors survived the asteroid impact that killed the giant reptiles. They survived ice ages that froze most of their planet. They survived volcanic winters that would end our civilization." She pulled up a comparison chart. "Look at this. The average Federation species has genetic diversity patterns showing stable evolution over millions of years. Humans show repeated genetic bottlenecks followed by rapid adaptation and expansion. What does that mean? It means that humans are not just living on a dangerous world. They are the products of that danger. Every human alive today is descended from survivors of disasters that would destroy entire star systems. On Earth, Navy SEAL Commander Alex Price was conducting underwater operations in the Arctic Ocean. The water temperature was just above freezing, and normal humans would die from exposure in minutes. But Alex and his team moved through the water with practiced efficiency. Dr. Helen Carter, a marine biologist studying cold water adaptation, watched from the support boat. "The human cardiovascular system is remarkable," she noted. "We can slow our heart rate and redirect blood flow to vital organs, allowing survival in conditions that would shut down most life forms." Dr. Kethera was now analyzing human behavioral patterns alongside their genetic history. What she discovered made her question everything she thought she knew about intelligent life. "Teklon, humans do not just survive disasters. They seek them out." She showed him footage of humans climbing mountains, diving into deep water, and racing vehicles at high speeds. They voluntarily expose themselves to the same conditions that killed their ancestors. Perhaps they have forgotten the lessons of their history. No, that is not correct. Watch this. She played a recording of human children being taught about their planet's dangerous past. The children listened with fascination rather than fear. They know their world is dangerous. They teach their young about past disasters, and they respond by preparing to face even greater challenges. The doctor pulled up more disturbing data. Humans consume substances that are toxic to most life forms. They call it spicy food and seem to enjoy the pain it causes. They deliberately damage their muscle tissue through exercise and consider the resulting pain to be beneficial. Doctor, are you suggesting that humans have evolved to find pain pleasurable? Worse than that. I believe they have evolved to find challenge and danger necessary for their psychological health. Look at these medical studies they have conducted on themselves. The screen showed human research on depression and anxiety. The data indicated that humans who avoided all risk and challenge often became mentally ill. They require stress and danger to maintain proper brain function, Dr. Cathara explained. A safe, comfortable environment actually harms their mental health. She began typing furiously. I must contact Federation Command immediately. Our classification system is completely inadequate for this world. Tekla read over her shoulder as she wrote. You are recommending a Class 13 designation? Class 13 is defined as a theoretical world so dangerous that it should not be able to support life. But Earth does support life. It creates life that thrives on danger. Dr. Kethora pulled up the final piece of her research. Look at human population growth over the past 1,000 years. Every time their world presents them with a new challenge, disease, climate change, resource scarcity, they adapt and multiply. Graph showed human population increasing dramatically despite wars, natural disasters, and environmental changes that would devastate other species. They do not just survive disasters, she continued. They use disasters as opportunities to become stronger and more numerous. Every challenge their world presents makes them more dangerous. She sent her report to Federation Command with the highest priority codes. Within hours, emergency meetings were being called across the galaxy. On Earth, Dr. Sam Rogers was performing surgery at Johns Hopkins Hospital. His steady hands moved with precision as he repaired a human heart while the patient remained conscious. To him, it was routine medical care. To any alien observer, it would appear to be torture followed by miraculous healing. The patient chatted calmly with the nurses while Dr. Rogers worked. This is my third heart surgery, the man said with a smile. Dr. Rogers here is the best. I'll be back to running marathons in 6 months. Dr. Keth Ara included this footage in her supplemental report. Humans voluntarily undergo surgical procedures that involve cutting open their bodies while conscious. They then expect to return to high-stress physical activities. This is considered normal medical care on their world. Her final conclusion sent shockwaves through the Federation. Earth is not just a Class 13 Deathworld because it is dangerous. It is Class 13 because it has created a species that considers universal threats to be minor inconveniences. Humans are not victims of their world's hostility, they are products of it. They have weaponized survival itself. The report ended with a recommendation that made Federation leaders lose sleep for weeks. Any species capable of treating extinction-level events as evolutionary opportunities should be considered extremely dangerous. However, they may also be the most valuable allies we could ever hope to find. As Dr. Kethera finished her report, she looked down at Earth spinning peacefully below. The blue and green world looked so beautiful and calm. But now she knew the truth. That peaceful appearance was the most terrifying thing of all. Earth was not trying to kill its children. It was training them. The news of Earth's Class 13 designation spread through the Galaxy Federation like wildfire. On the capital world of Zentara Prime, Ambassador Zul Madak received his orders with trembling appendages. His superiors had made it clear someone had to make contact with the humans again, and as the Federation's expert on dangerous species, he was the obvious choice. Ambassador, his aide whispered as they boarded the diplomatic vessel, the crew is terrified. Half of them requested transfers when they heard about this mission. Zulmetek adjusted his formal robes with all 6 of his arms. I understand their fear, but ignoring a Class 13 species could be far more dangerous than approaching them carefully. 3 weeks later, Zulmatek's ship entered Earth's solar system broadcasting peaceful intentions on all frequencies. The response came from a calm female voice that somehow made the ambassador even more nervous. Alien vessel, this is General Patricia Moore of Earth Defense Command. You are cleared to approach. We have prepared a reception team for you. On Earth, General Moore stood in the briefing room at Peterson Space Force Base, addressing her team. Diplomat Peter Shaw adjusted his tie nervously while Dr. Karen Ellis checked her equipment one more time. "Remember," General Moore said, "our previous contact ended badly because of misunderstandings. This time, we need to be extra careful about how we present ourselves." "What exactly went wrong before?" Peter asked. Dr. Ellis looked up from her notes. "According to our analysis, they seemed frightened by our caution regarding biological contamination and our descriptions of human adaptability. They apparently found our safety protocols concerning." General Moore nodded. "So this time, we emphasize how safe and peaceful we are. No mention of military training, survival skills, or anything that might seem threatening." The alien delegation arrived the next morning. Ambassador Zul Madak was an impressive figure, standing nearly 8 feet tall with golden skin and 6 arms. But General Moore noticed how carefully he moved, as if he expected danger at any moment. "Welcome back to Earth, Ambassador," she said with her warmest smile. "We're honored by your visit." Zul Madak bowed carefully. "Thank you, General Moore. We hope this meeting will be more successful than our previous attempt." The cultural exchange began in the base's main conference room. Peter Shaw had prepared a presentation about human civilization that focused on art, music, and peaceful achievements. He started with images of beautiful human cities and famous landmarks. "Humans have created many wonderful things," Peter explained. "We have music, literature, and art that express our peaceful nature." Ambassador Zul Madak studied the images carefully. "These structures are built in areas with extreme weather patterns, are they not? How do you maintain them during your planet's frequent natural disasters?" Peter looked confused. "Well, we designed them to withstand earthquakes, hurricanes, and other weather events. It's standard engineering practice." The aliens exchanged nervous glances. Dr. Ellis tried to help. "Human engineering is quite advanced. We've learned to build structures that can survive almost anything nature throws at us. You expect your planet to attack your buildings?" one of the alien scientists asked. "Attack? No, of course not. We just prepare for normal weather patterns and geological events." Ambassador Zul Madak made notes on a device that seemed to smoke slightly whenever he used it. "These normal events you mention, can you describe them?" General Moore stepped forward. "Well, we have seasonal storms, the occasional earthquake, volcanic activity in some regions, floods, droughts, that sort of thing. Nothing unusual." The smoking from the ambassador's device increased. "And humans continue to live in areas where these events occur?" "Sure," Peter said. "Most places on Earth experience some kind of natural events. You just learn to deal with them." FBI Agent Tony Garcia had been asked to demonstrate standard law enforcement procedures. He began with what he thought was a simple presentation about police work. The aliens watched in horror as he described pursuit tactics, restraint techniques, and weapons training. "This is how we maintain order in human society," Tony explained, showing images of police training exercises. "Officers learn to handle dangerous situations so they can protect citizens." Ambassador Zul Madak's 6 arms were now shaking visibly. "Your peacekeeping forces undergo combat training?" "Well, yes. Police officers need to be prepared for anything. They might face armed criminals, high-speed chases, hostage situations, or riot control." "And this is considered normal law enforcement?" Tony nodded. "Absolutely. Every police academy teaches these basic skills." The alien delegation huddled together, speaking in rapid whispers. When they separated, Ambassador Zul Madak looked even more nervous than before. Dr. Lisa Turner was next, presenting human medical advances. She had chosen what she thought were humanity's most impressive peaceful achievements: the conquest of disease and the extension of human life. "Modern medicine has eliminated many diseases that once killed millions," she explained proudly. "We use techniques like chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and surgical procedures to fight cancer. Chemotherapy? One alien asked weakly. Yes, we use controlled doses of toxic chemicals to kill cancer cells. It's one of our most effective treatments. The alien stared in shocked silence. Finally, Ambassador Zul Matic spoke. You deliberately poison your people to cure them? Well, when you put it that way, it sounds bad. But the treatment is carefully calibrated to kill the cancer while allowing the patient to survive. And radiation therapy? We bombard the affected area with high energy radiation to destroy malignant tissue. Several aliens had to leave the room. Ambassador Zul Matic continued taking notes, but his hands were shaking so badly he could barely write. The final presentation came from Captain Mike Johnson, who demonstrated what he called basic human fitness. The aliens watched in growing terror as he performed push-ups, pull-ups, and other exercises that they classified as self-torture. Every human should maintain basic physical fitness, Mike explained while doing jumping jacks. Regular exercise keeps us healthy and strong. You voluntarily stress your body to the point of pain? Ambassador Zul Matic asked. Sure, no pain, no gain, as we say. A good workout should make you sweat and feel the burn in your muscles. The aliens were now openly terrified. They spoke among themselves in hushed, frightened tones. When the demonstration ended, Ambassador Zul Matic stood carefully. Thank you for this most educational presentation, he said, his voice barely controlled. We must return to our ship to file our report. As the aliens prepared to leave, General Moore approached the ambassador. I hope this meeting was more successful than the last one. We tried to focus on our peaceful achievements. Ambassador Zul Matic looked at her with all six of his eyes wide with fear. General Moore, your peaceful achievements are more terrifying than most species' weapons of war. After the aliens departed, the human team gathered to discuss what had happened. I think we might have made things worse, Peter said. Dr. Ellis nodded glumly. They seemed more afraid of us this time than before. General Moore stared out the window at the alien ship disappearing into space. Maybe the problem isn't what we're showing them. Maybe the problem is that we're human. Aboard his ship, Ambassador Zul Matic was updating his report to Federation Command. Humans consider poison-based medicine, radiation bombardment, voluntary physical torture, and combat training for peacekeepers to be normal aspects of civilized society. They build their cities expecting regular natural disasters and consider this reasonable planning. Recommendation: extreme caution in all future dealings. These beings are far more dangerous than initially assessed, precisely because they do not consider themselves dangerous. He paused and added one final note. Most disturbing observation: humans appear to be genuinely peaceful and friendly, which makes their casual relationship with lethal force even more terrifying. The Federation's fear of humanity had just reached a whole new level. 6 months had passed since Earth received its Class 13 designation. The galaxy had learned to live with the knowledge that humans existed, though most species preferred not to think about it too much. Then the Kepler crisis began, and everything changed. Admiral Susan Clark stood on the bridge of the Earthship Unity as it approached the Kepler mining colony. The desperate message from the Federation had been clear. Hostile aliens called the Vorthan had attacked the colony and were using environmental weapons that made the planet uninhabitable for most Federation species. Admiral, reported Captain Julia Ross from her station, we're receiving updated casualty reports. The Federation evacuation ships can't get close enough to rescue the survivors. The Vorthan have poisoned the atmosphere and raised the surface temperature to lethal levels. Doctor, Mark Taylor looked up from his science console. The environmental readings show surface temperatures of 140 degrees, toxic gas concentrations that would kill most species in minutes, and radiation levels from damaged reactor cores. Admiral Clark nodded calmly. Sounds like a Tuesday in Death Valley. Signal the Federation ships that were moving in for rescue operations. On the Federation flagship, Commander Veltar received the human transmission with disbelief. They cannot be serious. No species can survive in those conditions. His communications officer, a nervous creature with purple skin, checked the readings again. Sir, the humans are requesting permission to land on the surface. They say they can extract the survivors. Tell them it's impossible. Even our best environmental suits would fail in minutes. The response from Admiral Clark was calm and confident. Understood. We'll handle this ourselves. Please stand by to receive refugees. The Federation officers watched in amazement as human ships descended through the poisoned atmosphere toward the colony surface. The environmental conditions that had stopped their best rescue teams were being treated as a minor inconvenience by the humans. Captain Luke Morgan led the first rescue team onto the colony surface. His Marines moved through the toxic environment with practiced efficiency, their basic protective gear holding up against conditions that would require Federation species to use full life support systems. Temperatures climbing, reported Sergeant Nick Adams through his radio. We're up to 150 degrees now. Copy that, Luke replied. How are you feeling? Hot, but manageable. This isn't worse than that training exercise we did in Arizona last summer. Combat engineer Grace Wilson was working to clear debris from the colony's main shelter when she discovered something that changed everything. Captain, you need to see this. The Vorthen aren't just attacking the colony. They're studying the survivors. Luke made his way to Grace's position, stepping carefully over twisted metal and broken concrete. Inside the damaged shelter, he found Federation aliens huddled in a makeshift safe room, their environmental suits failing in the toxic atmosphere. We need to get them out of here now, he said into his radio. Their equipment won't last much longer. As the rescue operation continued, something unexpected happened. The Vorthen ships, which had been maintaining their attack, suddenly stopped firing. Their vessels began moving away from the colony. Dr. Mark Taylor, monitoring the situation from orbit, noticed the change first. Admiral, the hostiles are withdrawing. All Vorthen ships are pulling back to a safe distance. Why would they retreat now? Admiral Clark wondered aloud. The answer came from an intercepted Vorthen communication that Dr. Taylor's team managed to translate. The creatures from the Class 13 world have arrived. They are operating in the poisoned environment without difficulty. Recommend immediate withdrawal to avoid contact with Earth forces. Captain Julia Ross looked up from her station with surprise. They're running away from us? Admiral Clark smiled grimly. Apparently, our reputation precedes us. Down on the colony surface, Luke Morgan was helping the last group of survivors to the evacuation ships. Among them was Federation botanist Zelka, the same plant-like being who had fainted during the first contact with humans months earlier. How are you able to survive in this environment? Zelka asked weakly as Luke carried her to safety. Survive? This isn't that bad. We've trained in worse conditions than this. Worse? How is that possible? Luke thought for a moment as he helped her into the rescue ship. Well, humans have been dealing with hostile environments for our entire history. We learned to adapt. The rescue operation was completed in 12 hours. Every survivor was safely evacuated, and the Vorthen forces had retreated completely from the system. What should have been a disaster had become a demonstration of human capabilities that shocked the entire galaxy. In the aftermath, Fleet Admiral Robert Hayes established the Human Defense Corps, a volunteer unit that other Federation species could call upon when facing impossible survival scenarios. The response from human military personnel was overwhelming. Dr. Jonathan Wright, a survival specialist, was put in charge of training programs for Federation species who wanted to learn human techniques. His first class of alien students lasted exactly 3 hours before they all requested medical leave. The problem, Dr. Wright explained to Admiral Hayes, is that what we consider basic survival skills, they consider advanced special forces training. I showed them how to purify water using basic chemicals, and half the class thought I was teaching them to make weapons. The cultural exchange programs continued, but with new protocols. Federation species were warned that human activities might appear dangerous or impossible. Humans, meanwhile, began to understand why other species found them terrifying. Captain Elena Davis was commanding the newest Earth vessel, the Explorer, when she received a communication from the Federation Science Council. They wanted to officially upgrade Earth's classification yet again. Captain Davis, the message read, after observing human performance during the Kepler crisis, we believe Earth requires a new classification. Your species has demonstrated that Class 13 conditions are not merely survivable for humans, but represent normal operating parameters. Elena looked at the message with confusion. What classification could be higher than Class 13? The answer came in the next transmission. We are creating a new category. Earth will be classified as a Class 15 fortress world. This designation is reserved for planets that do not merely support dangerous life, but actively create species capable of treating universal threats as training exercises. Dr. Amy Foster, now serving as Earth's Chief Alien Relations Specialist, read the full report with amazement. They're saying that Earth doesn't just produce survivors. It produces a species that makes other life forms safer by existing. The report concluded with observations that would reshape galactic politics. Humans do not conquer their environment through technology or force. They adapt to it, partner with it, and ultimately transcend it. They have transformed survival from a desperate struggle into an art form. Most significantly, the report continued, humans appear to be incapable of recognizing their own exceptional nature. They consider their abilities normal and are genuinely surprised when other species find them remarkable. This suggests that human potential for adaptation and survival may be effectively unlimited. As Elena finished reading the report, she looked out at the stars and shook her head. They think we're special because we can handle a little heat and toxic air? Her communications officer, Lieutenant Dave Collins, laughed. Apparently, what we call a bad day, they call an extinction event. The galaxy had learned that humans were not just dangerous because they came from a deadly world. They were dangerous because they had turned that deadliness into a strength, and they did it so naturally that they didn't even realize how extraordinary they were. Earth's children had inherited their planet's determination to survive, and they had transformed it into something the galaxy had never seen before, the ability to make the impossible look easy. In the depths of space, other species whispered stories about the humans from the fortress world, the beings who treated disasters as opportunities and found strength in adversity. They spoke with a mixture of fear and awe about the species that could walk through hell and complain only about the heat. And on Earth, humans continued their daily lives, completely unaware that they had become the galaxy's most terrifying and most treasured protectors.